Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 412 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. And you have tuned in to our deep dive episode. And today is a good one because we have the entire, well, I'm not sure it's the entire, but a large portion of the creation and development crew of a project called WFView, which is, well, we're going to find out what it is actually, so I'm not going to go ahead and give anything away. We'll get to that. But before we do that, we need to introduce the people who are here, and I guess the one that isn't. Cheryl will be on assignment this time, W5MOO, but I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
And normally I'm the one who sort of takes the lead on these interview episodes. But we're going to let Bill do a lot of the talking today, which is just great for me. It'll free up a bit of my Sunday. And yeah, with that, we apologize for the fact that we had to not record on our usual time. But some of the folks that we have in the chat with us tonight are actually European, and therefore their times are a bit different than ours. So we had to record on a different day at a different time. But that's all right. We're going to go ahead and get to them. And I'm just going to let Bill start talking here. So go ahead and tell us who we're talking to and what we're talking about.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and introduce who we have here with us today with the WFView team, and we'll start with Elliot Liggett, W6EL. How you doing today, Elliot?
Pretty good. Pleasure to be here. How are you?
Great. And who do we have here with us that you brought on to our call?
We have Phil Taylor, MOVSE, and we have Roland Johnson. I forget his call sign though. Let's see, what is it?
PA3MET.
PA3MET, that's right.
Awesome. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, fine here too.
Oh, great. So, Elliot, we brought you on here, and it's kind of strange that I already had this scheduled, and we received an email not just a day ago, somebody saying, hey, you should really, talk about this project called WFView. And I'm like, we were one step ahead. So Elliot, since you're the team lead, why don't you kind of give us a little bit of background information on you, and maybe we'll pass it around to all the team, get a little background information on everybody, and then we'll talk about this project that kind of brought all of you guys together. So take it away, Elliot.
Yeah. I guess I've been a ham since I was in grade school in 1995, I think, actually. And my dad's a ham, and my oldest son is a ham as well. So pretty nerdy group here. Been using Linux since 1998 with Red Hat Cartman with the 2.2 kernel. And I like making stuff. I like talking to people on the air. I like DX. I like all the aspects of ham radio. They're all really fun, and it's sort of propelled me through life, through college and into my career, all those connections I made through ham radio. So it's been good to me, and I'm really enjoying working on something that so many people enjoy.
That's great. How about you, Phil?
Yeah, well, I'm similar to Elliot, really. I've been interested in ham radio since, well, a little bit before Elliot, as I'm a little bit older, but since the 1980s, really, and mainly my brother that got me into it, and it sort of has really influenced a lot of my sort of chosen career, really, as I went into electronics and then computing. So it's quite a long-standing thing with me.
Great. How about you, Roland?
Yeah, well, I started in 1983 or something, and it was mostly because I did electronics and telecommunication at school. So it was really nice to do these kind of things. At first, I was doing illegal stuff, and most of the people do it at some point. And then I finally thought it might be interesting to make it more legal. So I did the exam stuff. So it's been a while.
Time to go legit.
Yeah, actually, yeah. By the way, we did forget, not really forget, because we did it. We talked also with for Jim.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't in because he had some issues with the children going to bed, because it's 7 o'clock in the evening over here. So Jim Nijkamp is also part of the team, and his call is Papa Alpha 8 Echo. So yeah.
Great. Well, now that we've introduced the team, let's talk a little bit about what brought us all here today, and who would be the best person to tell us what this WFView is.
I could take that one, although I think any of us could. WFView started as just a way to get that gorgeous Spectrum display off the 7300 and onto a larger screen. And I was doing a lot of work with the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts at the time with Jamboree on the Air. And of course, ICOM sends out the 7300 to any of the scouts that want a radio to borrow for that event. And so I had this radio and I said, wow, this is really cool. But everybody's crowding around this little, 4 or 5 inch screen. No one can see it. And so we had to break them into smaller groups and such. But I thought it would be really something to get that onto a larger screen. So started picking away at the owner's manual, looking at the CIV section, and I got the Waterfall out. And that was pretty cool. And as I started fooling with it, I added a couple controls, mode and frequency, that sort of thing. And I wasn't really sure where to go with it after that. It worked. It had limited scope, but it was doing something. And then a few years later, Roland and Jim contact me and they say, we would really like to build something for Linux that controls these fancy radios. And I showed them my project that I was working on, and we started doing it together. We added support for a number of rigs. And then we got Phil involved, and Phil has been wonderful writing code for the network and the audio stack. And, with all that work together, all the different radios supported, all the testing and the audio and the networking, it really has become a product much more advanced than what I had anticipated at the beginning.
Yeah, so this is, let's just try to lay this out for our listeners here. So this is not only an interface application that allows you to view the waterfall, but this is also like a fully blown rig control program on its own that also operates these radios, correct?
That's right. I tried to make sure that for this first release candidate that we're going for, that we have enough controls to do a basic QSO on any of the common modes and bands. So that's correct how you said it.
So if a user doesn't have, let's say, or they're using like hamlib or FL rig in their stack, would they still be using that, or would this program kind of super take over that particular role?
Well, it's interesting. It does certainly provide the same kind of controls that you have with those programs, right? Mm-hmm. And our software is compatible with them in the sense that we have ways for those programs to continue to operate with the radio while they're on WFView. Does it replace them? It could, depending on what your workflow is, I think.
So does it? So yeah, let's get to. I guess we'll just talk more about the application before we get into the details. So just reading the copy on your website. So this is over at wfview.org. So you have a nice landing page for the application and a GitLab page as well. So if a user were to Google WFView, they would probably land on both. But the web page is definitely a great starting point. It shows, let's see here, that WFView is a program that allows many modern ICOM ham radio transceivers. That's the one we're talking about here, the IC7300, the IC9700, and what you have the 7610 and the R8600 are currently supported to be controlled via your computer. WFView 705. Oh yeah, the brand new one. Yeah, the little QRP rig. So you can update that. Somebody can commit back and fix the website.
I'm doing it right now. There you go.
There you go. Whatever display is connected, including projectors, touchscreens, and TVs, WFView allows for full radio control from a computer keyboard and basic control from a numeric keypad. And it'll run even on, look at that, a Raspberry Pi up to a laptop and desktop. And we'll get to that eventually as well. So yeah, these are all traditional USB, carry the audio and CIV control information all over USB. So it's a one cable connection. And I have actually attempted this on two systems, not in the normal supported list. And I didn't have much success actually getting it running. But I didn't give it enough time, I think. but the UI looks gorgeous. So kudos to whoever did the UI stuff. And maybe somebody can kind of walk us through what a user would see, because this is an audio podcast. We can't show them the screen, but maybe you can kind of walk us through exactly what the app looks like and how you would interact with it. We'll start with you, Elliot, and you can pass it on to whomever.
Yeah, sure. I do want to note that it also works with LAN connected, Ethernet connected radios quite well.
Oh, that's nice.
We had a bug in the support code for the serial only radios that I squashed last night. So do a fresh pull, you may see some better results. So when you open up WFView, and if you've got it already set up, with one of these modern radios, you instantly see the waterfall display. And on the top, there's a little plot that shows you the current values. And then below it is the traditional waterfall sort of history view of what you have seen. There's a cursor that shows you where you're tuned to. In the lower portion of the window, you can see all the common controls. And we start with adjustments for the spectrum, if you want it fixed or center mode, and what the span is that you'd like. We have frequency dial, which you can either move with your mouse or your scroll wheel. Mode selection, a number of sliders for things like the squelch and the volume and the transmission gain, transmit power, that sort of thing. You got the S meter, which is a pretty cool little widget there, which shows you the recent average, peak, and current values. And there's repeater controls too. If you press the repeater button, you can bring that up, and it'll show you how to select a PL tone or DCS, duplex direction, all that sort of stuff. And I should mention too that we've put in accessibility labels for all these controls. So if you're using a screen reader, if you're hard of sight, it will read out to you these controls pretty easily. You'll be able to navigate the radio. Under the band tab at the top, there's a tab selection. You can press band, and then there's buttons for each common ham radio band. You can just click on them and go to those bands. The same goes for the frequency tab. You can click there, type in the frequency you want. A lot of this stuff has keyboard controls too. So like if you have a numeric keypad, you can press the star key. It'll jump over to the frequency tab, type in the frequency you want in megahertz, and press enter, and it'll jump over there. So that gives you a feature that the 7300 doesn't have, which is the numeric keypad input. But if you're on WFView, then you can use your numeric keypad to drive the program around. Lots of little enhancements like that our team sort of looked at and said, well, we'd like to have that. And I think you'll see as you use the program and interact with it more that, we're really just kind of building the program that we wish we had. This is something that we all want to use, and we're trying to make it as friendly to use as possible.
Yeah, and it definitely looks like you've taken into account a lot of usability in the interface, especially that view tab page. It's everything is pretty much right up front and well labeled, unlike a lot of rig control little pieces and software that you find all over the internet. And sometimes it's like, oh, I have to enable a special sheet to get like my power level to show up, or some of the sliders to show up. So it's nice that this has exposed pretty much most of the tools that you will need to use your radio right up front. Obviously, it doesn't get into the million different configuration options that you can find buried inside the CIV.
Well, that's interesting. We often we struggle about how many controls to put on that first page because, like you said, there's so many that you can do, right? And sometimes we put one on there and then we take it off later because we want to give you like the most useful set right up front, right? And we don't want to put too many, but we don't want to leave anything out that people commonly tune while they're using the radio. So that's where user feedback comes in. I think I heard Roland say something there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that not yet every part is in there, but probably many of the features will be actually incorporated. But as Elliot stated, to keep a clean interface, we have to make some layers in between, so different pop-ups and stuff. For instance, for the what you see also for the repeater setup and stuff. Yeah,
that looks really good. So I don't see a split operation here besides just the standard duplex and stuff like that. Is that how you enable using split?
Yeah, true split. We'll have to add a control for that.
Oh, okay. So and RIT doesn't appear to be here either.
It's there. It's just these screenshots are outdated.
Oh, okay. I should launch it in my other my other computer. I'm just staring at the website, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. After we get off the air here, I will send you some information. You can log into my radio and try it out. The latest version.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome to check it out. And yeah, funny you'd mentioned the Boy Scouts. The 7300 I have here is actually a loaner station.
There you go.
So I actually had it loaned to me for a national jamboree that didn't happen on 2021. So too bad for that. I just haven't sent it back yet.
Hey, no hurry,
Yeah, that's what they say too. I think all of them are actually back at ICOM right now. Probably all getting Flash because they just had the firmware update on those. So yeah. So back to this. So getting it set up. So initially, you have on the website you have a download to a pre-built binary. I see you have builds for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. I'm sure Mac OS users will probably ask if it works on the M1, but we don't really care about Mac OS. So
it does work now on the M1.
Oh, okay, it does
Phil
work.
for that. Phil has been working tirelessly, and Phil doesn't even have an M1, right? So he's able to build a universal binary and send it out. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. So does Phil want to kind of talk about anything special with the Mac OS build?
Yeah, there's certainly been a few challenges with Mac OS because the underlying framework that WFView's developed in is Qt. We have found that Qt isn't probably as stable on Mac OS as potentially on other platforms. So it's certainly been a challenge, mainly with audio. We found that getting the consistent audio quality between all of the builds is an interesting exercise, really. But hopefully that will improve as we move on. We're thinking about maybe looking at other audio libraries, which may improve things as well.
Yeah, because you got what they're still using Core Audio for Mac OS, correct?
Yes, yeah. But on Qt, I think that uses Core Audio as well.
Yeah, use like a port audio, like shim or something like that to talk to the local sound system or something like that. An abstraction layer. We love those.
Yes, yeah. I'm looking at RT Audio, which seems to have many of the features of Core Audio, but a lot more lightweight. So that's watch this space with that one, really.
So this app was built in, I'm assuming you can build it in Qt5 or Qt 5. I don't want to say Qt because Russ will chime in here and yell at me. If you have Qt 4, will you still be able to build on this, or do you need to have the Qt 5 libraries?
I don't think we've actually tried it on version 4.
Just thinking of all the older Linux systems out there.
Not something that we've ever tried. I think in theory it should work. I'm not sure that there's anything that we're using that's specific to version 5, but have you tried it, Elliot?
I don't think I have. We've got some little minor things different between versions of Qt5, so I assume Qt4 will have a couple of those little things too. But I agree with what Phil said. I think there's nothing super specific to Qt5 in here. And I say Qt, I don't say Qt. I don't know why.
Version 5 is 9 years old, I suppose, or nearly 9 years old. So it's
Is it really?
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah, well, we're moving on to 6, and that's where the license sort of splits. And
yeah,
we won't get into that mess.
No. I mean, I'd like to try and get us over to 6, but of course there are a couple of key features like audio and serial that aren't actually in 6 yet.
Yeah. So I remember the switch from 4 to 5. It was very similar kind of progression. It took a while to kind of get everything where it needs to be.
I got to add, though, I mean, isn't it cool in this day and age that we can have one code base, right? And it compiles on 3 platforms.
Yeah, that's amazing. That it always surprises me that people forget to kind of start in a spot that gives them that capability.
I hadn't thought of it at all. I mean, I was just targeting Linux only because, there are some programs that do similar stuff for Windows. And I just didn't even think about Windows as a possibility. I don't run Windows anyway, so I can't test it that way. So I developed it for Linux, and I was super surprised when Phil joined our project and said that he was actually doing all his work on Windows. I said, "What? It works on Windows? I didn't even know that."
Phil does Windows and Linux or Mac OS.
He does everything.
Jack of all trades, I think, is the. I won't finish the saying. But,
yeah, that's great. And I did pull down. I just looked at the test build for Windows and it launched right away, no problems. I didn't connect it to the radio yet because it is the one that is connected to my microphone, so I didn't want to mess up my audio channels and stuff like that by plugging in yet another audio device to my computer that has 20 audio devices. So, but I did give it the old kick the tires and look at it and stuff like that. So that's really great. So this project has been around for a little while. You guys, Elliot, you started what in 2016?
Yeah, that's correct. Although I moved at a snail's pace, because I'm a dad, I have a job, I just can't, work on it all the time. But then last December, I think it was, is when we started talking with Phil and Jim and Roland, and it just took off. It had legs, and that's part of the beauty of open source is you can put something like this out there, and people will come to you and say, "Here's an idea. Here's a way we could do this. Here's something I tried," and you just don't get that in the closed source arena. So it moved fast in the past couple of months, really fast.
But it certainly moved fast in the last couple of weeks, really, hasn't it?
Oh, yes.
Took us a little bit by surprise just how quickly everything took off. With just, I think it was a small Reddit announcement that Elliot did, just inviting a few people to test it, and we created a test build. Mm-hmm. And then we found that there'd been posts on about 10 different Facebook groups with links to the website, and so that's when we decided to create a groups.io group, without realizing that it becomes commercial if you have more than 100 members, which we did in under a day. So we soon closed that and created our own sort of small forum. I'll say small; it's got over 200 members now as well. So.
Yeah, it's amazing growth. And, you look at the other option for ICOM users, not to say anything bad about ICOM, but you'd have to pretty much buy RSBA1, right? In order to to get this sort of similar functionality, being able to pull that spectrum scope out and have full rig control at the same time and be able to remote your rig.
And it's Windows only.
And it's Windows only, yeah, exactly. Which makes it completely useless for our audience, obviously, and all those Mac users and stuff like that are out there that just want to stay away from Windows. I can definitely see there's an audience out there because ICOM is one of the big three vendors, and they sell a ton of these radios, especially the IC7300, that is very popular. And now it's fairly inexpensive for most people to kind of get into. I think it's sub $1,000 now with rebates and everything else. I'm kind of concerned that it's just going to go away.
As long as there's not a chip shortage, we can get them. And we love these radios. I mean, they're so nice. They're so modern. They have so many features packed in. And from a developer point of view, the CIV transport is really well documented. And you can find that documents dating over 20 years ago that show almost the same structure for communicating with the radios. So there's no reason not to try and support a wide range of radios when you're dealing with the ICOM command set.
Yeah, I mean, they picked an interface a long time ago and have stuck with it, and it's great that it's almost legacy, but it's continuing to improve as every new radio comes out with new features, and they keep adding it. So, I mean, definitely kudos to ICOM for doing that, making it easier for people to do third-party applications for the software, even if they didn't intend it or not. They probably just made it easy for themselves. So, Roland, we haven't heard from you in a little while. Why don't you give us some insight on what you're specifically working on in the project?
Yeah, well, mainly I do the supporting stuff, bringing up nice ideas and trying to slow down both Elliot and Phil sometimes because they're very, very, very enthusiastic, and sometimes, sometimes we get some bugs that we need to fix, and then I have some time left over to try to find it. I'm not as good in programming as Phil and Elliot are. I can do small fixes, and hopefully that gets better soon, but those guys are too fast. If I say, yeah, you see this issue, let me take a look at it, and before I start looking at it, it's already being fixed. But that's not bad at all. You also mentioned, by the way, about multi-platform. We are also looking into if it's possible at some point to create apps, and not sure if it will work, but at least it's something we're going to take a look at it. So it would be interesting to have it on a tablet as well, and
Android or iPad
exactly.
or iPhone,
And Phil already had it on like you heard on with the screen, a touch screen, and that was very interesting to see. I'm not sure if you could transmit already on it, but that might be something that Phil can tell you.
Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit about the support since you mentioned that. Are you guys currently doing support through GitLab or GitHub or whatever you're GitLab issues?
Yeah,
we
use
the issue tracker for that.
Yeah, we use GitLab for it, but we also use the forum.
Okay.
We have forum.wfview.org. Mm-hmm. All the things we pick up. We also does that kind of stuff, but as mentioned before, he's a little bit busy, so with those little kids. But that's generally the place where we put the stuff. And if it's really if it's more a bug than an issue like that you want to know how to install or how to configure it, then I think it's the best to use the forum. And if you really have a bug or even better bug fix or a PR and pull request, then you better go to the GitLab part.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're like the main triager, I'm assuming, like QA guy.
Well, I hope I am, but it's better to ask Elliot and Phil about. Yeah, well, those guys are doing the actual work, and I'm overseeing it more indeed, a little bit.
Roland, you definitely get the QA badge there. I mean, I think you said it very well that your job is to slow us down when we're adding things too fast. Roland's very good at catching stuff. I mean, he catches all kinds of weird things that I wouldn't notice, and he's also very motivating when it comes to getting things fixed up and making sure the code in the master branch is working. So that's what he does. He does it very, very well. He also does a lot of the documentation and a lot of the support stuff.
Yeah, and that is a key to success of many software projects. And as a daily developer myself, we really love our QA people and hate them at the same time. No. It's like, hey, it works on my machine. What are you talking about? It doesn't work.
Oops, yeah, I broke it for you. I broke it for you. Oops.
Like, why are you using that workflow? That's not the intended workflow. Well, add validation to prevent that, right?
Yeah, those things are actually the ways to find the bugs.
Oh yeah.
Not using the workflow that is being intended to use, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, just start clicking stuff.
Well, I think that's often the problem with programmers, that we write it in such a way we know how to use it. So we don't write it for people that don't know how to use it. So well, what did you click on that button for? Of course it will crash if you do that.
Yes.
That's where having somebody else that's not not actually been physically written the application is quite useful sometimes to be able to find these bugs. But it's also been very interesting the last few weeks with the number of suggestions we've had from people all over the world, really, with enhancements that they'd like to see, and many of them we'd already thought of, but a few that. Like Elliot mentioned earlier, we've had quite a few white stick operators who are very interested in the accessibility and being able to use it with a screen reader, which is something that we sort of very keen to do and to improve it as much as possible, because I think that's an area that none of the major manufacturers really focus on.
Yeah, that's very true, and I'm always keen to attend conferences where they kind of talk about that accessibility stuff, because it's not just people that can't read, it's even like just visual stuff, dealing with contrast between colors in your UI and stuff like that, being allowing the most readability of the actual application. And there's definitely a whole science to making your application accessible, and not just having screen readers read it, but actually having humans read it, with slight color blindness and stuff like that. Yeah, it's great that you guys are kind of focused in and dialed in on that. So let's talk. Let's go back. I was going to ask when we were talking about the open source ness of the project, but Elliot, why don't you tell us which license this project is ran under?
It's the GNU GPL, and I forget which version we picked there.
Version 3.
Version 3.
Okay, so yeah, GPL v3. So there you go. It's all open sourcey and everything else. And I mean, obviously you guys are doing some daily builds and stuff like that. What quality of release structure is this? Is this are we like in the alpha territory right now, or are we definitely into beta, or do we have a GA kind of pinned out somewhere in the project milestones?
That's a good question, and we had some discussion about that before coming on the air with you guys. Basically, I think overall the program is a little bit better than a beta, and we're looking at a release on the 24th that we think will be usable for everyone. Mm-hmm. Some of the features that are rather new, like the audio server and the CIV command server, that stuff may be considered alpha, I think, and the same goes for support with older rigs that use only the serial port over USB. Phil could tell you more about the level of excellence on the audio and the CIV. It's quite good. I mean, I've been running my 7300 over the network using filled code with WFView for about 4 days now, continuously, and it's working perfectly for me. So I think it's pretty good.
Well, go ahead, Phil. Add to that.
Yeah, I'm just always hypercritical, I suppose, of my own work. But yes, it's most of the testing that I've done. It seems pretty stable, but it's like we were just saying before. I'm trying to think of all the possible situations that could arise with disconnection and network failure and things, to make sure that it stays as stable as possible and reconnects and recovers properly. And so far, it's good. But yeah, I said I wanted to say it was alpha quality at the moment, but it's probably
buyer beware.
Yeah, it's probably between alpha and beta somewhere.
That's good. I mean, we're before a 1.0 release for sure.
Yeah,
what we're all saying. So that's really great. And as far as it looks right now, it's definitely looking good. And so your timeline shows that you said you're going to have a release coming up here for some kind of numbered release.
That's the stated goal, and I think we're close. We've decided to put a freeze on features. There's plenty of features we can add, and we've got great feedback from the community about things that they'd like to see. But for now, I'm really focused on just squashing the bugs people come up with. And the mailing list has been great for that. The forum, we've had all kinds of interesting feedback about things that have worked and not worked. What Phil's doing, the audio and CIV control, really, I didn't think we would get that far for release 1. If it didn't have that feature, then I think you could say that the whole thing was really ready for release. But with the audio and CIV, which everybody wants, maybe we kind of fall into the beta territory on there. I don't know, hard to say. It's better than Phil makes it out to be, because he knows what's in it,
Yeah. There's bugs to be found, basically. So yeah, it's a good release candidate build, right? You're feature freezing, so it's seems pretty confident that you can call it an RC build, and maybe once you get all the final bugs out of that build, you can GA it and call it a 1.0 release and have a really huge party.
Oh yeah, it definitely will be one.
That's great. So speaking about that, are you currently looking for more contributors, programmers, users, testers? What are you looking for gaining right now? I mean, obviously your forum has exploded with growth and everything else. So obviously you're getting the user count. Are you looking for more individual testers with unique systems, or what are you looking for?
Yes to all. I mean, we really the testing has been really helpful, especially with radios we don't have, right? Like the ICR 8600, their SDR receiver. We posted on Radio Reference asking if someone would try it out, and we got some immediate feedback that was very helpful. And then there's a number of older radios, like the 7100 and the 7200. Not really that much older, I guess, but they operate differently. We want to support those too, but I don't have either of those. So if someone can send me one, or they can just run the program and tell us what it does, that's always really helpful. We're always looking for radios. We're looking for reports, bug reports, testing. In terms of code contributions, definitely if you have experience doing this kind of stuff and you want to, as Roland mentioned, submit a pull request, that's wonderful. So you can make a GitLab account, clone the repository, make your changes, and then submit them back to the project. And that's the way we want to operate with that.
Yeah. So speaking of the code, we talked about the license. What is this written in?
C++.
C++. So there you go. And using the Qt library for C++. So if you're a coder familiar with that, definitely. And I'm assuming there's some lower level stuff there too, right? In C that you have packaged in there.
Well, I mean, I call myself a C++ programmer, but really I'm a C programmer. So a lot of the C++ you see would probably work fine in C in this project, at least the stuff I've committed, you know. But really, it's very modular. It's extremely modular. And when Phil joined the project, he was actually working on a similar program where he had implemented the network stack. And I think 1 or 2 days' time, he was able to hook what he had done into our program just by using the common signals and slots that we had set up.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about interoperability. I know I'd mentioned earlier on FLRig and HamLib and stuff like that, but we know a lot of other ham radio applications like logging programs and stuff want some kind of access to the rig. Does this application provide access to logging applications for that rig information, or would you still suggest people using like an FLRig or some other piece of rig control software to allow their logger to connect?
That's an excellent question. We have a section in our user manual at WFView.org called Sharing Control, and that goes over this topic. But basically, for all platforms, we have 1 or 2 methods where a secondary program can connect in. For Linux and Mac, we have what's called a pseudo-term, which is a terminal. Excuse me. It looks like a serial port, right? But it's actually a pretend serial port that connects into the program. And so you set up the pseudo-term through WFView, and then other programs can connect into it just as they would a serial port. And the only minor challenge there is some programs won't let you type in the exact address of the pseudocom. So you may have to close the program, edit the preference file, don't tell the program, and just open it back up. And then you get through. And on Windows, we have to use a COM-to-COM solution because of driver signing and stuff like that. So there's a number of virtual serial port loopback devices you can install in Windows, and we support those. You can connect WFView to those, and then your information just comes out the other side where another program can connect. And the other solution that we're working on, Phil's doing this, is a rig control D compatible server. So it will look like the HamLib rig control D interface, which a number of programs support connecting to. And so, yeah, we do recognize it's important to have the ability to run other programs at the same time, especially like FLDigi if you're doing digital modes, or a logging program if you like to log your contacts.
Yeah, or our favorite mode to hate, right? FT8.
Yeah.
WSJTX.
I've never enjoyed that mode, but I know a number of people do, and so I respect that. And it does work. You can look on our mailing list. A lot of people have asked about it.
Yeah, we know everybody uses it.
Well, I don't. But
Well, I must admit, my first QSO using WFView was using WSJTX across the network into my 9700. So
awesome.
But, a lot of these other programs, like logging programs, WSJTX, their needs for knowing what the radio is doing are very simple. They need to know the frequency and the mode, and maybe if there's transmit control. That's about it. And they can do it at a very slow rate compared to what WFView is trying to do with making a nice, friendly user interface.
Yeah. Polling becomes a variable there. So I know Russ has been sleeping on the side, but I'm slowly running out of specific questions. Russ, did you have any new questions to throw into the mix here?
No, I can't say that I do. It's been really interesting. I am looking forward to. I just built it while I was listening to all this, so I'm looking forward to get it to it. For some reason, I can't forward X onto my Mac. I don't know what's going on with that, but otherwise,
another issue.
Yeah, otherwise I'd already been looking at the interface and seeing what I can do with this thing, because my 7100, I definitely want to try this out with it and see what it does so far. So do you guys, you sort of picked ICOM to start with to do this. Are you going to like branch it out and make it more like globally accessible to other radios and stuff like that? Or do you just see it as being ICOM only and to hell with everybody else?
We'd like to support other radios. The difficulty is the command set. With ICOM, it's just so nice and clean. Every command packet has a to and a from address and a clear beginning and an end. So it's very easy to parse that data at a raw level, right? When we look at the COM port and we pull data out of it, we can tell if we got the middle of a packet or not, because the formatting isn't correct. But I would like to support other radios, and especially radios that can provide us like a spectrum display or something kind of interesting to look at, or where there aren't a whole lot of other options. I think it'd be really cool to do that. I looked at the L-Craft K4 recently, for example, and it looks like it has a very rich command set, but I wasn't clear on if there's a way to get the spectrum data out. I think what they give you on that radio is the INQ, so then you have to take the Fourier transform yourself and make the waterfall, which we could do. That kind of stuff would definitely be further down the road, though, because we're really focused on stability here and supporting the core 5 or 6 radios that we've defined on the website. But maybe.
So why do you see the need for something like this? I mean, presentation layer for radios that exist, is it primarily for the network application or something like that? Or, is a local companion view of your radio nice? Or I'm curious on top of that, because you're sort of creating an extra shim or an extra complexity for people who already have like ham lib integration.
There's a number of reasons. For one, there's accessibility for people who can't see so well. And the touchscreen radios, which are so great for everyone else, are inaccessible if you can't see. That radio has nothing you can feel on the screen. There's no way to really control it properly. So WFView provides them a way to access those radios. The second reason we really like it is, of course, the open source software and Linux community, which has fewer options right now for radio control. They've got some, but I don't think those solutions are as satisfying to use as this. This is written in C++, and when the radio does something, the program responds instantly. If you have CIV transceive turned on and you just touch the knob on your radio, you will see WFView respond as fast as the screen on the radio. It's really a modern take on rig control that the other programs don't have. Other goals, of course, the presentation stuff is really cool. And then we have the network control. And what we're doing here, and Phil is writing most of this code, is allowing a radio to be served on the network even if it didn't come with network capability. For example, the IEC 7300, really excellent radio. It looks like the IEC 9700, but it doesn't have that Ethernet jack in the back, right? So we have an almost plug-and-play solution here where you can run WFView on a Raspberry Pi, plug it in with the USB cord, plug Ethernet into the other side, and now you have the 7300 over your network for full control with audio. And we intend to support that for any ICOM radio that has USB audio and USB CIV control.
Oh, that's really interesting. And Bill, the project for the audio, what's the new thing? The pulse audio thing?
Pipewire.
Pipewire, yeah. Are you guys, staying in tune with Pipewire and keeping that, or are you just kind of using its ability to shim backwards into Pulse Audio currently?
I'm not familiar with what that is, but our network protocol is going to be the same as what the rig natively supports, so it's really transparent to the user.
All right. Let's see. I thought I had another question there, but it seems to have gone away.
I will mention I did an S-trace on WFView on my Fedora box here, which is running Pipewire and only has a fakey shim for Pulse Audio. I can see it trying to grab config files from Pulse Audio that don't exist. So we'll probably have to be something in the future that would have to kind of look at that.
Yeah, I'm guessing that'll be a QT or Qt feature.
Yeah, it's trying to natively find it, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this?
Because WFView has sort of no knowledge of Pulse Audio or ALSA or anything really. It's that's at the moment handled by Qt, which one of the reasons we're also looking at trying to move to a different audio stack really for that, because it does seem problematic at times, and I think they've just not really updated it. It's still using fairly old technology on Windows, Mac, and Linux.
Yeah, probably lowest common denominator. I can see that with a kind of a support everything library.
And we have Roland here is insisting on low latency. I mean, he is after us to make sure that we're well under 100 milliseconds, kind of in the 20 to 50 millisecond ballpark for most connections. And so he won't let just anything slide for a remote streaming of the audio.
Well, a CW man, aren't you? So
exactly.
Yeah. There are a few reasons why indeed CW is one of them, but also the timing constraints with the digital modes can be an issue. So if you have a delay of a second or something, FT8 won't work.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Russ.
Oh, I think I remembered what I was going to ask. It had to do with documentation of things like the co-integrations and pseudo TTYs and virtual comms and all that stuff. Where do you go to get that, and how good is it?
Yeah, go to wfview.org and click on the user manual link at the top. And then you can either select the first link, which is a table of contents, or it's a drop-down, and you can just select share and control if you want to see how to share the control with other programs. We've got a manual page for each tab of the program right now. And then we also have a number of manual pages for user scenarios. For example, remote operation, using older radios, keyboard shortcuts, customizing the appearance. The whole thing is built on style sheets and preferences, so you can customize the color of any widget you see in the program. Serial port management, if you want to do the UDEV rules for your radios and give them nice serial port names in Linux, you can do that. Audio configuration, including like a loopback, so you can get the audio coming out of WFView and either into your speakers or into a program like FLDigi for decoding. We've got a page for everything, and if you find something we're missing, we'll add it, because we want to make it really easy for people to see how to do things.
It is true what they say, though, that hams don't read manuals.
Oh, it's so true.
I mean, the number of posts that I've replied to on the forum with just a link to the manual page, but I'll be honest, I'm just as bad.
Yeah, same here.
We don't need no stinking manuals.
I mean, you shouldn't. And WFView, we want to write it so you can just open it and use it, But the fact is, a lot of the complexity that hams get themselves into, and we're all guilty of this. We want to connect this to that, and not exactly the way you thought we were going to. It sort of demands complexity in operation too, unfortunately.
I was talking to a friend earlier, actually, who downloaded WFView, and he was quite surprised how he was able to just put the IP address of his 9700 in, and click and the username and password, click connect, and he got the waterfall without any other. I mean, not everyone's found it quite that easy, because one of the things we found is that things like Hamlib likes to disable CIV transceive mode that we use, which does cause some issues. So people have been using a Hamlib-based program. They may need to manually turn that back on, but we're looking at ways of getting around that at the moment.
I think that's all I had, actually.
Oh, good. Almost walked all over you there. All right, so we kind of got through license, GitLab, contributors. I think we've almost gone through everything. I guess we'll go to our usual. We're almost near the end, and let's try to bring up any topics we have forgot to mention, and probably just go around the horn with all of you and kind of go ahead and talk about anything that we may have missed talking about that you think should be highlighted, or stuff that would possibly be of interest to people wanting to run this or possibly support this. So we'll start with you, Elliot, and give us a whirl.
Yeah, sure. First, thanks for having us. We're really enjoying this a lot. This is so fun. If you haven't seen Kevin Laughlin's YouTube video where he runs WFView and he connects to my 9700, that's worth a look if you want to understand the sort of the best usage case. It's really cool to see him do this. And, he talks about how it feels very alive and how difficult it was to set up and all that stuff. I learned a lot watching how he used it too. That was pretty cool. So I would say check that out. If you're interested in running the program, just go to the website, download it, and go to the Getting Started part of the user manual, because you'll see how to set the radio up. There's a couple of controls that you can set up to make your life a little bit easier on the radio before you start WFView. You should do that. And join the forum. We have a button on our website that says support. If you click there, you can view all the current traffic on the list, but you can also sign up and participate. We'd really like to hear people telling us their success and what doesn't work too, because we want to make it easy to use. That's a big goal of the project here. And if you open up programs like, like SDR Uno or some of these other SDR programs, they're so complicated. I almost feel intimidated looking at them, and I want to make sure that WFView isn't that way. I want to have all the sophistication in there, but I want you to open it up and see controls you're familiar with and be able to just kind of start using it right away, like Phil was talking about. So that's important to me. And so I'd like to hear from everybody who uses it, what they think about it.
Great. And Phil, go ahead.
I think Elliot's covered most things. One thing that is on our roadmap that I'm quite looking, because one of the main features I see is being able to remote control radios. And at the moment, audio is sent pretty much in sort of raw PCM format across the network, which isn't the most efficient. So I'm keen to investigate adding some compression, whether it's Opus or Speaks or something along those lines to try and reduce the amount of network traffic required. And most modern PCs now have got enough sort of power to process that in real time. So, that's what they're designed for, isn't it? We are looking at supporting some hardware interfaces as well for VFO knobs and things. Whether that's something like the RC28 or we've also talked about sort of MIDI devices. So we've got lots of plans. That's why we've got this sort of long-term roadmap that Roland keeps for us of all the ideas that get thrown out on WhatsApp. So that's about it, really.
Awesome. Roland?
Phil was talking about the roadmap. We might be interesting to know that we are thinking of some additional features in the next release, like custom filtering, dual scopes, enhanced satellite mode setup, memory management and stuff. So we're actually going to do pretty cool stuff in the future, I hope, especially with Elliot and Phil, obviously. So I think that's also worthwhile to mention that we are having, nice plans.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's definitely an exciting project, and I know there's many users out there who've always wanted to grab that Spectrum scope and put it on their computer and stuff like that, beyond just plugging a VGA to the back of the radio, like some of the ICOM radios allowed you to do, and be able to control the rig without having to drop another C note on buying the RBS 1 or whatever, RBA 1 or SBA 1. I can never remember that. Yeah, this is an awesome project, and it sounds like you guys are well organized development team.
It's nice that we appear that way.
Yeah, I know. It sounds good. I mean, you guys are clicking all the check boxes that I can think of for a dev team, especially having a solid QA and triage person is always a key to success. Because
for sure, I know I would.
Yeah, you can go find that rabbit hole and just keep on going down it. So yeah, this is awesome. So everyone that has one of these rigs, try it out. If you have one of the rigs in the upcoming support list, or possibly right now on the master branch, if you're willing to try it out, I guess that would be owners of the 7100. Russ, we're talking to you. Get that thing hooked up. The 7600, 7700. And I have used those before. Those are good radios. The 706 is on the list there too. I'm assuming you'll be pulling audio from some other device, like like a Signal Link or something like that.
Let me talk about that for a second. So I really wanted to support the 706 because there's so little software that does, and I have one in my truck. So I thought, well, it'd be cool to support this. But they don't have a push-to-talk command. And it turns out a lot of the older ICOM radios don't have that. That's a layer of complication I didn't anticipate there. So if you plug it into a 706, what you're going to see is it tracks the frequency, and you can change frequencies, bands, and modes as you would expect. But that's about it. So if somebody really wanted to go after that radio, maybe a Raspberry Pi with a GPIO to the push-to-talk and like a CM 118 sound card would do the trick.
Yeah, I think I have two 703s here because I'm a QRP guy.
You can send them over. To Elliot.
Yeah, I'll send one over.
No, seriously though, if anyone wants a radio supported and they can send it to one of us, we can have it supported in about 2 weeks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like the 703 through WSJTX has to, or through FLRig, it does a cat control for the PTT. It doesn't use audio detect like a Vox circuit or something like that. So I would have thought that it would have had a CIV command for push to talk.
A lot of those radios use like the ready to send lines on the
RTS, DTS, yeah, okay, yeah.
Which is a good way to go, It's just not every adapter is going to have that.
Yeah, so you have to talk on the serial side of things instead of the CIV side.
Right, but could you imagine like a little, even like an Arduino sitting on top of the 706 or 703, intercepting the command for PTT, and it sees that command come over the line and it keys the radio. Could be that simple.
Yeah, maybe that's interesting. I'll have to think about that.
There's so many rigs out there that would make really good remote radios, especially these radios that are getting a little bit old. Maybe the screen is faded, or the backlight doesn't work anymore, or the knobs are getting kind of flaky. If we could support those radios, so you plug them in and you've got a remote ops, how cool would that be? You can go hide one in a building or in a repeater cabinet somewhere and run a wire out, and then you can remotely access that radio.
Yeah, and we know that remoting your ham radio is a very popular topic.
Definitely.
Everybody's wanting to talk about it, and there are many options out there.
But you listen to people doing this, and they've got solutions like this. Well, I have my old Windows XP machine running Ham Radio Deluxe, the old free version, with TeamViewer and Skype, and it's like, yes, that could work, but it's just a COM port, right? It would go over a modem. It's such a small amount of data. We don't need the complexity of a Windows machine with a screen sharing program to do this. We can just shuttle the COM port data over a TCP/IP connection and the audio, and we're done. And so I would like to see more hams embracing open source in general, especially because the spirit of our operation is we have schematics, we have diagrams, we have understanding of the technology we're using, and so Linux speaks to that really well. But also stuff like this should be simple, and so we hope we can do that with Raspberry Pi and stuff like that, and make the remote ops thing a much better road than it is now.
Yeah. Well, you got my vote.
Thank you.
And hopefully, at some point we hope to be able to even release a basic SD card image for the Pi that people can literally just plug in, connect to their radio, and have a WFView server running within minutes. That's the plan anyway.
Yeah, it would be really awesome. I'm just thinking about it now. Is that thing just pops up as a web page on the device, and you get the audio through WebRTC or something like that.
Well, yeah, we've looked at the possibility of that having some sort of web server as well. So it's definitely an option.
Yeah, and Qt is obviously there to do that as well. So the interface should be pretty easy to transport over, and you'd have probably the best, one of the better Rig Pi, or whatever those many different names of projects that are out there right now for the Raspberry Pi that would provide access to it. That would be really, really neat. Well, I think we have covered all the topics. We have gone around the horn and talked about some other stuff. Is there anything else that we should add before we graciously thank you guys for coming on here?
No, can't think of anything.
No.
Let's take a look over at the chat room as well. I don't know if Russ has been watching over there. It's been quiet because this is, again, an odd recording time for us. It looks like not much is going on over there. We do have a couple of listeners. Russ, did you want to go over that?
I can do that. I did throw a couple of people who were, I think, listening. I did see Dan, KB6NU, connect to the server like twice during the recording, so I'm assuming he's trying to listen if he's not actually listening. But we had Bobo Link in the Discord. We had John, K1BTZ. We had Tony, K4XSS. We had Dan, KB6NU. And we had The Menace.
The Menace. Very scary.
Wonder if it's Dennis. But yeah, those are the folks we had in the chat room. There wasn't a lot of chat, which means, or must mean, that the conversation was just really interesting, and no one had time to think of anything interesting to comment on because they were just wrapped with the WFView project. So we'll go with that, right?
Yeah. Why not?
Absolutely.
And I'm actually looking forward to jumping on my Shack computer here now that I've got WFView built and see how it looks with my IC7100, which is one of those up and comers in the WFView world.
Now let us know, because it's probably not going to work the first time you try it, since you'll be one of the first ones to do so.
Well, that's all right. I've been doing this a long time, so if it blows up, first time around, I'm pretty sure I can work it out.
All right.
Well.
Yeah, he's much better than I am. I break stuff.
All right. Well, yes. Thank you, all of you guys, for being here. Roland, Phil, and Elliot. We really appreciate you guys coming on and telling us about the project. When I was probably out of the room when you said it, but when did the project start? Just for my own edification.
And
well,
end of last year, I guess, for us together, right?
Okay, so yeah, so it's really, really new project. Good. I'm glad we were able to jump in sort of on the ground floor of this, and looking forward to see where it goes.
Yes, too.
It'll be interesting to see what the first non-ICOM radio that's supported by this project is. I'm waiting to see what that is.
It's the first one that gets sent.
Yeah, so you're hoping it's something really big, really expensive. So like the first.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, send them a 101D or whatever those things are. Right?
Oh gosh.
There's that Kenwood that's the size of half a house, isn't there? That.
Oh yeah, 980 or something. I don't even know what the number is.
890.
Incidentally, I'm just looking on the downloads, and so far this is for all platforms. But we've had of the pre-built binaries had nearly 3,000 downloads. So it's certainly definitely some interest there. Anyway.
And all of them over the last 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
It's just me, rekey and download. No.
We did have a bot in China doing that, but they weren't counted.
All right. Well, I think that's it then, guys. We really appreciate it, and thanks for coming on and spending time with us at your various locations around the world. And I know it's probably dinner time or even later for some of you all.
Yeah. Well, it's just gone 7 o'clock for me.
Yeah, time to get something good to eat then.
Yeah, definitely.
And that has been a little bit of a challenge working with guys, spread across the globe. But it's like every night around midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, I get on, and these guys are getting on, starting their day, and we have our little caucus about what we're working on, and then
Usually,
then we go to it.
every time when I get up, I look at my phone and there's about 100 WhatsApp messages. So I know that Elliot's been busy overnight.
Same here, Phil.
Could be worse for you, Elliot, because you're the one who has to get up early.
I've seen moments of 180 plus, actually, when Phil was busy during the night.
Yeah,
it was really awesome.
Yeah, so I'd go back through them all in the morning though, and work out whether there's anything you need to reply to.
All right, very good. Well, I hope we can revisit with you guys maybe in 6 or 8 months or something like that, see where the project is then and where it's headed, and look forward to testing it out myself, and hope everybody else goes to WFView.org and tries this for sure, especially, well, at least currently, if you have an ICOM radio.
That'd be great.
And if anybody has a 703 or 706 or 9700 or something they want to send to the guys, go for it.
Definitely.
There's no feedback. I looked through the email while we were going through the show here, and we don't have any feedback this time, so that actually brings us to the end. I guess we'll go ahead and close this one out. This has been episode number 412 of Linux in the Ham Shack, a deep dive into the WFView project. Thanks, everybody, for being here, and thanks, everybody, for listening. For the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD 73.